Fellow patriot, I'm not trying to be nosy or pushy, but do you have the 37 food items you can't get in the coming disaster and may not survive without? The reason I ask is, as you already know, something big is about to hit the U.S. and we've got to be prepared. In fact, without what I'm about to show you, you may not survive. That's why I made this short video. In the next few minutes, you're going to learn which food item will fly off the shelf first. When you find out what it is, it's obvious you can't survive without it. And I'll tell you exactly where to get it before the general public does and how to store it securely, along with how to practically smell a disaster coming and lock down your supplies or get anything you're low on before the mob goes crazy. Not to mention how to keep your family from being attacked, robbed, or even noticed by buying these items before they're on the radar. So stop what you're doing, close all your other tabs and windows, and grab something to write with. This video is going to blow the whole conspiracy wide open, and you don't want to miss a crucial detail because you were on Facebook. Now, let me introduce myself. My name is Damian Campbell, and I want to talk to you about the coming disaster and how to survive it without ever going hungry. With the shaky state liberals have put our country in, our food supply is in a dangerous place. The fact of the matter is, any disaster, big or small, could force you to go weeks without food. See, without the essentials, food and water, you may not survive. And there's going to be no way to get these crucial food items when a crisis hits, or when the news even smells a crisis for that matter. Think about it. How would you survive a terrorist attack that caused widespread panic and shut down all shops and stores in your area? Would you be forced to beg neighbors for food or be shipped off to FEMA camps? Could you and your family survive hurricanes or snowstorms that whipped your neighbors into a panic-buying frenzy, grabbing any and everything they can get their hands on? What if the stores weren't restocked for weeks? What would you do if your home was hit by floods, washing out roads and making it impossible for stores to supply food for the coming days and months? Would you survive? And how would you deal with protesting labor unions holding your food hostage? Would your kids go hungry? The sad part is, people don't think any of these very real disasters will ever happen, or at least won't happen to them. In fact, maybe that's what you're thinking. Well, my friend, history says otherwise. Remember these recent disasters that cost thousands of lives? In 2011, after the Tohoku tsunami in Japan, over 300,000 people were evacuated to emergency government camps. Let me tell you, those camps weren't pretty. As sad as it is, some of the refugees died there. In the meantime, survivors lined up for blocks outside of 7-Elevens and grocery stores for a scrap of food. And in 2004, the Indian Ocean tsunami wiped out shops, stores, and food supply routes for hundreds of thousands of people, not to mention killed 230,000 or more. And if you think the U.S. government, FEMA, and local authorities are going to respond any better when disasters hit the U.S., take a second and think back to Hurricane Katrina. When Katrina hit in 2005, stores closed, looters ran wild, and every day, hardworking people were forced into FEMA, quote, relief camps. Fast forward to the 2010 Haitian earthquake, followed by the massive Chilean earthquake where more than 316,000 people were killed. Survivors are still struggling to reestablish consistent access to food. And on top of that, every year the U.S. is hit by a deadly mix of disasters. Tornadoes touch down in the southeast. Blizzards dump piles of snow in the northwest. Severe droughts drain the central U.S. Wildfires blaze in California. Earthquakes rock the west. And floods cause millions of dollars worth of damage everywhere. In fact, FEMA states that every American lives in a flood zone. The only difference is if you're in a low, medium, or high-risk area. So now that we're being honest about what can happen, here are the two options you and all of us as Americans have. Option 1, you can put all your hopes for survival in the government and FEMA. Or Option 2, you can take survival into your own hands. Please believe me when I say, as your brother in arms, I want to help you and your family survive any way I can. That in mind, you need to know, this could be the most important video of your life, so keep watching. Trust me, it's a video you don't want to miss. As the author of the top-selling Survive Anything Guide, I've done my homework, and what I found was pretty scary. Strangely enough, the weird secrets I discovered are mostly common sense. Any 5-year-old can tell you, without food and water, you're in trouble. A human can die a few hours after dehydration, especially if they're doing anything physical, like running from a mob or fighting off an attacker. And life without food means a slow and painful death, starting with confusion and diarrhea and ending with spine-racking seizures and hallucinations from hell. It's not fun to think about, but even if a crisis lasts just a few weeks, it can be deadly to you and your family if you're not prepared. But it's even worse for people who think they've got plenty of food and are ready for anything. The truth is, if you buy the wrong food items, you'd have been better off buying nothing at all. You probably can't imagine how crushing it is when your kids realize their dad was wrong and your wife feels like you failed to protect the family, even if they'd never say it. Now, I don't know you from Adam, but as my fellow patriot, I don't want this to happen to you or your family, and I'm sure you don't either. That's why I've put together this list of 37 crucial food items that sell out when disaster hits. Frankly, the hundreds of people who have been helped by my Survive Anything guide need to know what these items are, or everything they learned would be for nothing. Heck, every single American needs to know what these 37 critical foods are, because honestly, without these crucial items, your family isn't going to be prepared. And by the time disaster hits and these foods fly off the shelf, it's too late. There's no way around the fact that all foods aren't created equal. Some are completely worthless nutritionally. And it goes without saying, but your family's health is too important to waste money on foods that will kill them slowly in a crisis. The sad part is, even though the average American doesn't know what to look for, they'll grab anything and everything in a disaster. That's why you should know these 6 survival food tips up front. First off, you're killing your family if you're counting on a garage full of MREs or other survival food to get you through a disaster. And second, why the food your wife normally buys is almost perfect, but the thing she hasn't thought to buy is crucial. This caught me off guard when I found out. Third and super important is why your food is worthless if you buy the wrong packaging. Trust me, there's nothing more demoralizing than finding your carefully packed food crawling with maggots and realizing your family is going to go hungry. And fourth, how to pack your food like a Special Forces soldier so your family will have the basics even if you have to run. Fifth, how to tell if you're going to make your family sick by eating expired food or if it'll be just as good as the day it was packaged. By the way, this is extremely important for long-term disasters like a food crisis. And oddly enough, sixth, why this brand of alcohol should be at the top of your list even if you don't drink. See, right now, people look down on us patriots who take the obvious dangers seriously and are getting ready. Sometimes our neighbors or even family say we're crazy or kooky. But here's what I think. People may say we're nuts now, but we'll see who was right when they're asking us for help. And as Christians, we won't even say I told you so. See, there'll be no way to buy any of these critical items after a disaster. You know that, and I know that. But spoiled, rotten Americans think they can snap their fingers and get whatever they want. The fact of the matter is, it doesn't matter how rich, popular, or politically correct you are. When people are starving and panicking, you're not going to get what you need without a fight. That's why you must get these 37 crucial food items before the panic. And it's also why we're going to be the people on top of the game when crisis hits. See, with these 37 items, you'll be able to attract like-minded Americans to rebuild our nation based on the Constitution without all the liberal crap. And be a community leader ready to protect and provide for your fellow patriots. And not only that, but you'll set the example for your close friends and family. These 37 items are so important you'll become the disaster go-to guy. And the great thing is, these 37 items won't break the bank. Really, the only way to screw this up is to wait. If you don't have them in advance, you're sunk. The fact of the matter is, when disaster hits, many stores will close, and coddled Americans will panic. But for some strange reason, liberals try to pretend like nothing is going to happen, or there's no reason to freak out. And they're the first ones to run to the store and strip the shelves bare just as soon as the news even mentions crazy weather. Imagine if they announced something like 9/11 again. How do you think they're going to act when their favorite grocery store has its windows smashed and nothing left on the shelves? You know exactly what they'll do. Start a panic and loot every store around. But more on that in a second. What I can't understand is why they're ignoring the evidence. Weird conspiracy theories aren't my cup of tea, but the factual evidence here is different. It's obvious you need these 37 critical food items now. Just take a look at these recent news bulletins. Researcher Kent Arnsberger recently exposed grocery stores for their poor planning. They might carry 3 to 4 days worth of food. That's gone in mere hours or even minutes during a crisis, so you won't be able to get your hands on things your family needs to live unless you have them in advance. And the Mayo Clinic recommends you drink about 2 liters of water every day. How much water would you have if, God forbid, terrorists poisoned our water supply or nuclear fallout made rainwater undrinkable? And worst of all, Fox News reports lack of acreage in the U.S. will usher in a significant food shortage. Not to mention the fact Off the Grid News reported the U.S. government recently put in an order for a 10-day supply of food for 14 million people. That means 420 million emergency meals. Maybe that doesn't seem like a big deal, but when you compare it to the 6 million meals normally on hand, it brings up a disturbing question. As an observant American, I have to ask the question you're probably thinking. Why the sudden 7,000% increase? When you add all that up, how people can't see the obvious truth is beyond me. But the part that really bugs me is, when a disaster strikes, who do you think all these clueless freeloaders are going to try and come to? You guessed it, you and your family who were wise enough to stock up on the necessities before the crisis. There's no way to deny that food prices have been skyrocketing, which makes it even more important to buy these 37 critical items before the prices go even higher. And if you think food is expensive now, imagine what it'll be like when stores shut down and farms can't feed their livestock. After all, when your family is hungry and you know you can't restock anytime soon, would you sell even a scrap of food? Heck no. And if you were going to sell some of your precious food, how much would you charge? Would you take credit? That food would be worth its weight in gold, literally. That means if your family is less than rich or even in some debt right now, you need to buy these 37 essential food items while you still can. But this isn't some doomsday prediction. Take a look at what happened in Germany when hyperinflation hit. In 1923, the Weimar Republic was hammered by hyperinflation in record time. A pound of meat that cost 36 marks less than a year before jumped to 36 billion marks practically overnight, and the U.S. is on the same crash course. But here's some good news. These 37 food items are specifically for middle-class Americans who are going through hard times financially. This may sound harsh, but rich people don't need my help. These 37 items are for Americans who won't make it without the basics and can't spend a fortune trying to survive when disaster hits. That's why instead of just getting a generic list, you'll get the info on where to get the top 3 crucial items even if you're barely making ends meet and are neck deep in debt. Along with the top items that are just as good as name brand but a fraction of the cost. In fact, a lot of the big companies try to hide these trade names to keep you spending. Not to mention how to use items hiding in your cupboard to replace anything you might be missing. And most importantly, where to find the last couple of items if you get caught in a panicked mob. As you can see, this isn't a guide that sends you to the camping store to spend hundreds of dollars on dehydrated survival food. Besides, even if you can afford it, that stuff isn't a great long-term answer. Now, it doesn't matter if you're in debt or on a tight budget. You can afford to protect your family and get the most critical food and water items on the market. But you might think this sounds too good to be true. In fact, I've had people contact me accusing me of being some kind of scam artist or hustler. So I guess the real question is, why am I doing this? Some people will accuse me of trying to make a buck off my fellow Americans' back. And you know what? They're right, to a point. After all, I've done hard work researching, writing, and preparing these survival guides, and I expect to be paid for it. We're not communists yet, right? But the other piece is even more selfish. The hard truth is, if you're not with us, you're against us. Our country needs more Americans like you who are serious about preparing. Even with the ultra-patriots, there's no way we can support every single person unless they do their part. Like it or not, when people's children are starving, there are going to be riots. Looters will try to take food by force, and I don't want you to be part of that mob. That means by getting you these 37 food items for your family, I've made my family that much safer. Now, if you and I can convince the entire nation to prepare now, the only people we'd have left to support would be the freeloaders and liberals. And there's no place in our country for people not willing to work anyways. But talk is cheap. Are you ready for a look at exactly what's in this guide along with the exclusive bonuses? Plus, if you like what you see, you'll learn how you can get your hands on them without risking 1 red cent. Now for the good stuff. Here's what you get. First up is the sold out after crisis 37 vital food items guide. By now, you've figured out these items can be the difference between your family's survival and, well, if you're like me, you don't need to finish that sentence. Your family's survival is the only option. These items have been broken down into straightforward lists so you can get them easily and cheaply. But there's a lot more here than just a detailed list. You're also going to learn which food item will fly off the shelf first, and when you find out what it is, it'll be obvious you can't survive without it. So I'll tell you exactly where to get it before the general public and how to store it securely. And you'll discover where to get the top 3 crucial items even if you're barely making ends meet and are deep in debt. Not only that, but you'll learn the weird trick behind how to practically smell a food riot coming and how to lock down your supplies or get anything you're low on before the mob goes crazy. And one of my personal favorites, you'll find out about this ancient seed that can grow with little water, has more amino acids than an egg, and is better for you than cereals you eat now. And along with that seed, you'll discover how to use this other delicious mystery food to its fullest. It can increase the life of any vegetable, clean up dangerous spills, and keep your house safe without toxic chemicals. And I guarantee your kids will love this creamy, super cheap food item. It's high in protein, folic acid, B vitamins, minerals, dietary fiber, and doesn't go bad. If I had to pick one item and one item alone to get, this would be it. But like you've already figured out, food is only part of the equation. Obviously, you need food to survive, but what are you going to do if you don't have any water? The reality is, humans can't survive more than 10 days without water. Or how about energy? Are you going back to the Stone Age? So much of our lives depend on power. The problem is off-grid power seems so expensive. And if you're really thinking long-term, how about a food source? Food with a lengthy shelf life is great, but wouldn't a garden that no one knew was there be the best option? The problem is, you're on a tight budget. I know you can't afford to buy 1,000,001 resources to get prepared. That's why I'm including these guides as special Patriots-only bonuses, but only if you're serious about your survival. Here are the bonuses you'll get if you're truly committed to protecting yourself and your family. First up is the Water Purification Quick Start Guide. You know you need water, but those high-tech filtration systems can cost upwards of $400 for a base camp model, and the cheap low-volume filters won't come close to supporting your family. That's why I've put together this down-and-dirty guide on purifying your own water. It's not pretty and won't win any awards for great photography, but it'll filter your water and it's simple to put together. And here's what your Water Purification Quick Start Guide will do for you. It'll turn a 55-gallon drum into an automatic water purifier without having to use a fancy pump or rely on electricity. After all, do you really want your water supply at the mercy of the power company? And it'll also give you step-by-step instructions to show you how to set up a complete water filter in a couple of hours. If you can dump dirt in a bucket, you're overqualified for this. And after you've purified your water, you'll learn the simple process to make a quick switch from water filter to storage container, so you don't have to worry about running out of water in a drought. And best of all, you'll learn a friendly way to get most of the materials for free. In fact, people will thank you for taking them off their hands. Now that you've got water taken care of, time to move on to a food source. Take a look at these survival garden plans. The fact of the matter is, you can survive and even thrive with the 37 items on the list, but after a while, store-bought food gets old. Plus, you need a way to get fruits and veggies to stay healthy. Processed foods drain your body after too long. That's why the survival garden is such a good fit. You'll have fresh produce for you and your family, and it'll be 10 times easier than having to fight through a starving mob for a couple of bruised cabbages and squished tomatoes. Here's what you can do with these plans. They'll walk you through setting up your survival garden so it produces better quality organic produce than you can buy from the store, not to mention keep you and your family healthy for longer. And most importantly, with these plans, you can grow enough food to support your family and even help your neighbors. After all, as Christians, we've got to help others. This way you don't have to starve your family to do it. By the way, if you're a busy person, this guide is for you. These plans show you how to create the perfect garden for people who don't have any free time. In fact, this will drop your stress levels enormously. And when you find yourself overflowing with delicious food, you're going to need a place to keep it all so it won't go bad. And so it won't attract any nosy neighbors. That's where you'll use the Survival Food Stockpiling and Storage Guide. Here's what you get in this guide. You'll learn the 2 most crucial factors that determine how much food you need to hoard for you and your family. You'll be able to use these factors to calculate an exact figure so you don't overshoot or underprepare. This is the most critical place to start, because if you store too much, you waste your valuable money and space. But on the other hand, if you store too little, your family could suffer the consequences. I don't want that to happen, and neither do you. That's why it's important that you get this exactly right. And when you're selecting the right foods to store, you'll be grateful to know the 3 specific reasons why any food should or shouldn't be stored for the long term. Trust me, if you let the wrong food into your stockpile, it has the potential to turn your whole supply into a steaming, rotten mess. Not only will this let your family down, but you'll be forced to beg your neighbors for a scrap to eat. Not to mention, you don't need to build a bunker unless you want to. You'll be able to use these 3 unusual home secrets to find space for your stockpile inside your own home. And you'll be amazed at why the packaging that food comes in is often useless, and the best containers you can use instead. If you ignore this one simple trick, your food stock will be Bug City. But even with food and water, living without power can be tough at best and downright miserable at worst. So take a look at these off-grid survival backup power plans for a straightforward solution. Obviously, everything I've shown you so far works without any power. But the fact of the matter is, modern technology can be a big help, especially when it's you against the rest of the crazy world. You can use power for everything from electric fences for home defense to talking with family across the country. But big backup power companies know this and charge $1,000 to $45,000 for a complete system to power your house. The simple truth is, you don't have to pay their outrageous prices to have your own off-grid backup power that you can use for your fridge, lights, or any other appliance. In fact, you can use these plans to grab off the grid energy without paying for an expensive power system at all. And you can use them to set up a generator that can run for years without needing any serious work or repairs. Hint, a gasoline generator isn't going to cut it. Not to mention, cut your dependence on the government and foreign oil for energy, and you'll be able to grab free power from the sun without paying an arm and a leg to big solar panel manufacturers. Heck, this makes sense before disaster even strikes. Now, like I said, this was a lot of work. Breaking food survival into simple checklists and information sheets takes days of nose to the grindstone hard work. Not to brag, but I'm pretty proud of the plans I've put together. But some people feel like I should give this away. I've even had people tell me that I'm scamming Americans out of money by charging for this information. But on the flip side, there are people who think this information is going for way too cheap. See, smart Americans understand they can save money now and be prepared for a disaster. And one part you'll really appreciate is it's all under the radar. No funny packages showing up at your house, and no Uncle Sam trying to stick his nose into your business. For that matter, even your neighbors will keep quiet. So to figure out what a fair price is, I did a breakdown, item by item. For the 37 Vital Food Items Guide, it's $97. The Water Purification Quick Start Guide is $17. The Survival Garden Plants are $19. The Survival Food Stockpiling and Storage Guide is $21. And the Off-Grid Survival Power Plans are $49. So the grand total comes to $203. Less than a month's grocery bill and way less than a trip to the theme park and snacks with your family. And you'll get a heck of a lot more out of it. Face it, with these guides, you have the potential to keep family safe and have peace of mind no matter what's going on in the world. Your family needs a hero, and you can step up to the challenge. However, I don't want to price people out of this great resource. I'm trying to share this critical information with as many people as possible. So I'm going to go out on a limb and set the price of the sold-out After Crisis Guide series at just $49.97. Yeah, I know I can charge a lot more, but I just as soon keep the price low and help as many of my fellow patriots as possible. That means you'll get the entire package, bonus plans and all, for $49.97. Yeah, I know that's over $130 off, but it's what I feel is right. So, if you're ready to discover the 37 food items you need to keep your family safe and happy, as well as how to purify your water at home, plant your own survival garden, and produce off-grid backup power, click the orange Add to Cart button below to continue. By the way, your order will be processed using the most advanced and secure 256-bit SSL encrypted secure server available, the same kind Amazon, eBay, and banks use. But I realize that some people are nervous about purchasing online. Or maybe you're strapped for cash right now, and after buying the 37 Vital Food Items Guide, something will come up and you'll need your money back. That's why I'm going to take the risk and give you 60 days to return the 37 Vital Food Items Guide, even if you've read all the guides and used them to prep your home for a crisis. Sure, that means some people are going to take advantage of me, but honestly, I trust my brothers in arms. After all, if we can't trust each other, who can we trust? Just to spell it out, here's my guarantee in writing. And for the record, there are no questions asked. I'll refund 100% of your money as soon as you ship the product back. There's no restocking fee or other sneaky loophole either. And as a NRA Business Alliance member, I'm serious about giving patriots the information on the 37 most important food items, or I'll refund every penny you paid before you can blink. Now, I've got one last thing to tell you. Just to warn you, some people might think you're weird or a little overprotective for buying this guide. But I want you to stop and think how glad they'll be when you're helping them. Think about how satisfying it'll be, knowing you've got your family protected and are prepared for anything. You don't have to be a big survival guy, 5th degree black belt, or Bear Grylls style woodsman to get these 37 food items that can literally keep your family from starving. So click the orange Add to Cart button below to continue your order now. Now's the time to make a decision. It's pretty simple. Do you want to be caught without these 37 crucial food items, or do you want to take responsibility and get prepared? If you're confident beyond a shadow of a doubt you're completely ready, leave this page now. But If you're even a little bit unsure, let me ask you, are you willing to chance your family going hungry because you wouldn't take a risk-free look at a short list? It's your decision. Hope to see you on the inside. By the way, maybe all you can start with is a couple days worth of food. Those few days can make the difference between life or death in a serious survival situation. Get the 37 critical food items you need to survive now. And not only that, but when a crisis hits, humanity is at its worst. Heck, people get trampled in the mall for stupid toys at Christmas time. Imagine how much worse it'll be with a starving mob and food supplies vanishing off the shelf. Also, if you're worried about your order, let me tell you, I'm doing everything I can to keep it safe. My cart uses ClickBank's 256-bit secure server, just like Amazon, eBay, and banks use. And finally, don't forget, you have my 100% money-back guarantee. If you don't like the guides for any reason, just let me know, and I'll process your refund immediately. I'm taking all of the risk so you can get started today. Click the orange Add to Cart button below to continue your order now and prepare before disaster hits and someone else grabs your 37 food items. See you on the inside.